Right, welcome to another episode of Powerful Eyes podcast. Today we've got our friend Billy Hull.
My ego was at its biggest, so my ego had to project a man of power, of wealth, of success, of doing really great things, and they were, and you can't take that away from the experience. They were great things that were being achieved, but the truth of how I actually felt was so far from what you see. You'd see me in a nice car and, you know, businesses and stuff, and, you know, nice places, nice watches, all of this stuff, and I was so broken, and I felt like a ponderat, if that even exists, you know, like an old weasel. I was broken in all ways that I can't really explain, and I felt like just simply a bag of shit.
How are you, Bill? You good?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm good, mate. We'd like to just start right at the beginning and let you tell your story.
Okay, my heart's starting to pump.
No pressure.
No, that's fine. It's fine. There's plenty to share. I was born in Harlow, Essex. So first, the beginning is me and my mum. So there was no father present. My mum met a man called Mick Hawkins when I was about 2.5 years old. So he took me as his son and me as him as my father. At that age, I wouldn't have known no different. So at about 3.5, I think, they had my brother Jack. And I think. So I'm gonna as I'm speaking move on and talk about a later time in my life where I had many struggles, and in investigating myself or learning about myself, I've had to do the very same thing as we're doing here now. It's go back to the beginning and understand what happened in my life and how did that impact me and how did that affect me at a later date. So on that basis, I might as well explain as I go. So I understood that my mum meeting my father as a small toddler had a huge impact on me, and even the birth of my brother, although it was a wonderful thing, it still had an impact on me as a child, or being a sorry.
That's all good,
That's
mate.
right.
Listen, it's your story,
No,
mate.
good,
You go at your pace, mate. We're all good.
Yeah. So, I'll just move forward. So we had my mum and Mick had Jack. We moved on, and I think my mum was then kind of introduced to drugs and the party scene via my stepfather. That had an impact on my relationship with my mother, and I think that there become a distance between us, and I was spending a lot of time at my grandparents.
How old was your mum when she had you, Bill?
25, 28. So I don't think she had taken any drugs, or she hadn't really been involved in the party scene too much until meeting my father, stepfather. I was spending a lot of time with my nan and granddad, and that for me was a great thing. I used to love my time there. My granddad used to build. Again, he wasn't biological grandfather. He was just a partner of my nan, basically. But he used to build these build aircrafts and fly them over, remote control. He used to fly them over at North Weald, and he used to take me with him. So I used to love that. It was one of my favourite things to do. I used to feel safe and love being at my nan and granddad's. A little bit later in life, I asked a question to my mum. I was the only person in my family with brown eyes, and I asked my mum, why am I the only one with brown eyes? And she explained that Michael wasn't actually my real father. So I'd always grown up under the impression that Michael was my father, and at that point, obviously, understood that he wasn't. So it was quite a shock for me at that time. And
How old was you then?
I was about 7. And I obviously asked who is, and I'd like to meet him. So I wrote my real father a letter, and I got a response. I actually understood that me writing my father a letter, his wife at the time had found the letter. He had never declared that he had a child, and it actually ensued a divorce on his part. So I'd sent this letter saying, "My name is Billy, I'm your son, I'd like to meet you," and blah, blah, blah. And got a letter back saying that we could do that. So I remember really looking forward to meeting him, and had built up this idea in my head of what this man was going to be and what he was going to look like. And kind of felt like I'd been banished, not through anything that had been said or done, but just through the understanding that I was not part of this biological, with Mick, mother and my brother. That was a biological circuit. I was kind of not part of that, and that kind of made me feel a particular way. Rejected, yeah, for sure. I'm not part of that unit, but being a father myself, I understand that there is a difference between your biological children and you're not. There's not, but there is. I've kind of had both ends, and but for me it was also felt. It was known that was the case just by being a part of the dynamic. So there was that to contend with as a young boy, and I remember it being very difficult and seeking the love of my father, I suppose, and when he come, I remember waiting patiently. He was coming to pick me up for the first time. I remember sitting up in my bedroom looking out the window waiting for him to pull up, and I remember him walking down the driveway to the front door and opening the door and wrapping my arms around him as if this was going to be like a really special moment. And it was just a man who just didn't know what the fuck to do. It's like sort of stiff, sort of like it was peculiar for him. But
did he have any other kids?
Not at that time, no. And I remember even just being in the car with him. It was just odd and awkward. He didn't know really what to do, and I was just a little boy, kind of guiding my father in a way that would telling him what we're going to do today and this, that, and the other. An odd thing, and a disappointment actually. It was a disappointment. I'd built this idea up of who this man was going to be, and it was quite a disappointment. And so there was this detachment from my own family, and then this thing going on with my real father where it wasn't really what I expected it to be, and not really feeling part of anything.
So you're caught in this middle world then, aren't you? You're in this kind of your own little world, watching, I suppose, your biological family,
yes,
and then obviously trying to get the connection with your real dad as well, and you're kind of caught in your own. Yeah,
100%. It was an odd time, and it's only as an adult I've really had to go through all of this stuff to look at little Billy and to understand what he went through as a child, and we'll get to what unfolded for me as a teenager and a young adult, and it really wasn't that nice. So then my granddad died when I was 10, I think. Something happened. He had a heart condition. I remember my mum coming and telling me that he was sick. Now this man was my world. He was my absolute everything. It was kind of the father that I never really had, and the times that I spent and shared with him were like truly special to me. So I remember my mum coming and saying that he wasn't well, and I knew in my heart that something was coming. She come back from the hospital and she was crying. I automatically knew what she was going to say. She said, "I'm really sorry, darling. He's dead." And I remember falling. Like, I didn't actually fall. I remember it was like I was falling into a black hole, and I couldn't really comprehend that I would never ever see his face again. And I was trying to understand what death meant. It was like I just couldn't get my head around it. What do you mean? I won't see him again. I couldn't get my head around that. And I remember going up to my bedroom and just howling and screaming, being really broken-hearted. And what ensued after that was like clinical depression, I suppose. By the time I was 11, 12, I was like a stick. I was looking through some pictures the other day. I looked terribly, terribly ill. And mentally, as a child, I was already broken. And there's some other things as well. Maybe as I get through the story, we'll come back to those because they'll be relevant. But they were the two kicks in the bollocks as a kid. The two fundamentals that I recognised to be significant things that happened to me as a child that affected me later on. Excuse me. And I know there's probably a collaboration of things, but so moving on. So it's like 11, 12. I was a skateboarder at this point, and no drinking, no smoking. I was against all of that stuff, and I had some cool friends. But we were a bit like hippie-ish. We'd have long hair, baggy jeans, and we used to get the piss taken out of us, obviously, by everyone else. That was fine, but I loved my skateboarding. I was quite good at it. It was something to get stuck into for a short time. And yeah, school was fucking frightening for me. I didn't fit in. I didn't feel part of. We was always freaking moving as well. Like I've moved, no word of a lie, 30, 40 times in my life. We've never lived in any fixed address. As a child, we would move every year, always moving. And for that reason, I never really established a group of friends ever. You know, so we would establish a friend or two, and then we'd move again. So you was always living like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, going to senior school, it was. I remember the first part's terrifying. Integrating yourself, trying to communicate, trying to talk. You know, you're watching the cool cats and the cool kids, and you're trying to be a part of that, but you're not like them anyway. And it was like you're figuring shit out, you know. And it was, yeah, it's scary and difficult. And I made friends with some of the cool kids, and you know, very quickly my attire changed. Started dressing like the cool kids and Patrick Cox shoes and side partings, and you know, my whole identity changed as a way of sort of blending into the way of everybody else. And then there was drugs. You know, it was at that time it was puff. I remember being 11 years old, and my mum and dad used to smoke all the time. You know, there'd be all sorts of things going. Friday, Saturday night, there'd be parties and having a puff, and that was just very much normal protocol at our house. You know, so I remember me mum and dad were rolling a joint at the table, and I was watching. And my mum said to me, she said, "Do you smoke?" She obviously probably knew that I did, and I denied it. And she said, "Could you roll one of them?" And she said, "Go on then, roll it." So I rolled it, and they said to me, "Smoke it." I thought it was a trick. I thought they was going to just, yeah, so I smoked it. And that was that. I was a little baby, and that was...
How old was you then?
I was 11, 12 years old, you know, and I remember running upstairs. I was over the fucking moon. My mum and dad let me smoke on the phone to my friends. You wouldn't believe it. We're allowed to puff at my house and blah, blah, blah. I was then the coolest kid.
Cool kids.
You know? I was the coolest kid, and everyone wanted to be my friend on the strength of that. So it was a good thing for me as well, because it was something that helped me.
Be popular.
People wanted to know me,
Yeah.
but just because of this thing. Well, you know, so coming from a place of being scared and being vulnerable and not really knowing how to be a part of, quickly establishing that through the means of smoking weed, it made me popular. It made me, you know, if I had the stuff that people wanted, people would come, and people like me, and et cetera, et cetera. So quickly I was learning that if I do this, and this, people like me more, and it was, you know, I was learning how to put myself at the center or at the top. If I have this and I do this, then all of a sudden I've got people queuing around me. Everyone wants to be my friend. So it was, you know, as a young child, I quickly learned what it is that I needed to do. And so, yes, we had friends come in and we'd smoke, and then that escalated into me selling it. We'd have queues of people outside the front door. Still a child, you know, incredible. And yeah, queues of people down the street. And by the time I was 13, 14, yeah, I was up to everything. It's cocaine, ecstasy, puff, selling that stuff. It was all a bit of fun, and it was all very, you know, small amounts of everything, and not much bother. Just kids having a blast, sort of thing.
Was you doing it for the money or the clout?
I was just going to say that. I bet it was a case of kind of, you know, you found your world. You said being kept in that kind of middle world. You then kind of, you know, you're the most popular kid where everyone's allowed to go around yours, do this, do that. You know, not only that, you're getting your hands on all the stuff. Listen, you must have been walking around like King Kong.
Kind of. And there was multiple things. Again, we didn't have much money, you know, and our friends, my friends, used to have motocross bikes, used to have go-karts, used to have this. I couldn't have any of that stuff. And I wanted it, you know, and so not only was I the centre of attention, but now I'm getting some money and I'm making some money. And slowly, I you know, it went from, I'd have 2 or 3 motocross bikes, and I was buying it all myself. I was a child, just making shit happen, you know, and it was pretty fucking cool, really, on one end of the spectrum, and where it led was terrible, you know. So as a young child, I learnt to fend for myself. I was out on the streets. I made my own money from as a very, very small boy. If I wanted something, I went and fucking got it, and so I was learning life skills from a very young age, but also some of this led me down a very dark path, and that has also come full circle and really blossomed into nothing but beautiful stuff along the way. But we'll get to that. So it escalates, of course it does. So it's like a bit of puff, a bit of this and a bit of that. By the time I'm 15, 16, 17, I'm pretty fucking good at what I do. I'm selling a lot of this and I'm selling a lot of that, and the older kids want to know me. So that's where it goes, really. Obviously, I'm the connection between my generation, I suppose, and the older boys. I'm the link to this age group, you know. And so that was that. So then I start getting picked up in all the smart cars. You know, I've got the older fellas picking me up, and they're all a particular way. And then above them's all the gangsters, you know. So it was like slowly. Plus, I didn't mind a gangster film and all the rest of it. We used to sit and watch that, and you know, was thinking that we were the bees and these were just little fucking idiots, you know, like. But we fantasised, and of course, what you're absorbing through the telly, the language you use, your behaviour, you know, and we start to get violent. I started taking steroids when I was 15, 16. So I was a small kid. I'm a smaller fella. So for me to be safe and to survive in that world, I had to fucking make myself mean and nasty as very quickly as possible. So I did. I pumped myself full of fucking God knows what, which didn't really help my mental state either. Plus I'm pumping in loads of drugs. So by the time I was 15, 16, 17, I was a little bit of a lump and a fucking lunatic. And that was just a survival technique. That was just to be okay in the world that I was living in at the time. So like I said, I was quite good at what I did, and we used to go out Friday night, Saturday night, and whatever, drive around, do all my drops and fancy cars, and you know, Rolex watches, and all of the people, no names, but the generation above me, you know, they all had 2 or 3 girlfriends, fucking fancy cars, this, that, and the other, all the nice clothes. You know, as a young boy, I used to look up to them and think, I want a bit of all this. You know, that was really the carrot for what I was doing. If I do this, and this, I can have all this, and this. So that's what we did. And yeah, and then it escalated again. So it's like 17, 18, things changed. We had access, or I had access to one particular guy. And I had anything that I wanted, and it was given to me, and I could have it for as long as I wanted. So we'd have, you know, I don't know what we talk about, but we had all different quantities of whatever quantity of whatever narcotic I wanted. Was available to me, and they was more than happy to just give me as much of whatever, and I'd have it plotted up somewhere, and I'll just tackle through it, earning proper money. And I was still on the grand scale of things as a child. So I had shoe boxes full of money, shoe boxes full of Rolex watches and all the rest of it, and it was exciting. It was fucking exciting, and there was always a drama. Something was happening. Someone was always coming after you, or you was going after someone else, or there was always something pretty crazy going on. And I loved it. I fucking loved it. It was great. And some of the friends that I had were crazy people. I loved my life at that time. You know, there weren't much not to like. You know, I took drugs excessively, but they weren't driving me mental at that point. So it all appeared at that time. Things were good. I had a few quid. I looked good. Girls wanted me. Cool group of friends. Blah blah blah. It didn't last long, of course. And then of course there was the police.
Yeah, I'd imagine they weren't too happy with what was going on.
Whereas doors just getting kicked off every other day or every week at a different location, and people, I don't know, I was only a kid, so people know what I'm up to, and they're going to come and fucking turf you up, and people outside the doors with shotguns and people, all of this. This was an everyday drama. It was like something out of a film, and it went on for about 3.5 years. Mayhem, but I thrived in it. I fucking loved it, and would I say I was scared? I think I overrun fear with just madness. I would just back to any fear I would transform my fear into just being more of a lunatic. I think I was scared. Yeah, of course I was scared. A lot went on. There's specific stories, like there's so many fucking stories, and they're all really interesting. But we had one of the safe houses got robbed. Took a lot of stuff. It turned out it was my ex-girlfriend's mum that had organised it. There's what I'll come to is that what helped me in a lot of what I was doing is that I always had a guardian angel of some sort, and that always presented itself as it was normally in both cases it was my partner's parents. So I got with a girl when I was 16, 17, in the madness. She had just had a baby. It wasn't mine, obviously. And we were childhood sweethearts at school. So I remember she dumped me at school. I remember sitting at the top of my stairs crying. Anyway, I had the opportunity to get back together when I was like 16, 17. I took her little girl as my own. And we lived over in a pretty rough part of Harlow. But we had everything. She had a convertible Mercedes. I had a X5, I think. I was still kids, Rolex watches and loads of money in the cupboards and all the clobber, and we lived a good little life. And we were still children ourselves, but we were making a go at raising this child, which was hers. But our mum was a bit of a gangster, and there was a few scenarios where things had happened. I think I got robbed once. Someone took my watch off me and put a big knife around my neck or something. She was in the car, my girlfriend. We went back and, cut a long story short, I had an address of somebody. I knew the person that had done this to me, and I had an address on somebody else's sat nav for this guy who'd done this. His brother owned a pub in South London somewhere, and the mum had organised someone to go in the pub, wrap the fella up, basically tied him up in a hostage situation, and demanded that I got me watch and me money back. And I did. Within an hour, my goods got returned to me. It wasn't really for me, but it made me look fucking good, because people spoke about that. It was like, if you do that to him, then this happens. Well, it weren't really my doing at all. It was nothing to do with me, but it kind of put a little bit of a message out there that if you don't fuck with him. It was good for me. And then a little bit later on, you'll probably all know the fella or not, but the next partner, her dad, was a bit of a fruitcake, and everybody knew him. And I caused mayhem, but no one would fuck with me because of him. So I was always kept safe by something else, and thank God, because I probably would have been fucking killed a million times over otherwise. Interesting. Yeah.
Did you? Sorry to jump in there, Bill. Did you ever have anyone kind of sit you down and sort of say to you, look, you know, what's going on here, mate? This is going to go down a path. Did you have any guidance or not? Or was you just off making money?
No, I was gone, and I was left to my own devices from 12, 13 years old. There was never anybody to tell me nothing about anything.
You probably wouldn't have listened.
Wouldn't have listened anyway. Probably wouldn't have listened. And I've had to have my journey. I've had to have my journey just the way it's been served to me, you know. And it really unfolds. It really does unfold in a beautiful way. But from that point onwards, there's a lot of that. So there's a lot of robbing. There's a lot of cheating. There's a lot of thieving. This, that, and the other. People knocking us for money. Violence. Blah blah blah. There's the whole cocktail of the criminal world. And it wasn't very nice. And in the end, yeah, I become a drug addict, you know. So it's like the excessive drug use, every day sniffing cocaine, trying to function. I'm broken from you know, the things that have happened. Not only then, like my best friend was killed. I broke up with my missus. My best friend was killed in action in Afghanistan, and there was a number of different things that happened when I was about 17, 18. It was another kind of like 3 punches. It was like boom, 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 and it put me down. And my go-to was cocaine, and I fucking rinsed it, like sniffed thousands and thousands and thousands, like on a rampage, just on a fucking rampage. I didn't care whether I lived or died, and yeah. So the good times of doing what I was doing were slowly fading, or quickly fading away, and I was becoming useless. You know, I wasn't really doing what I was doing anymore. I was more interested in just fucking losing myself. So I was just locked in bedrooms and just
escaping.
Yeah, and being a generally strange individual. Do you know what I mean? It was yeah, an interesting thing, but yeah, lost, escaping, and just self-destruct, like just yeah. There's so many parts to it, and I don't really want to go into all of them individually, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. So
it's what comes with that sort of lifestyle, doesn't it?
Of course.
I think we all know, everyone listening to that will know that if you're in that lifestyle, the challenges you're going to face, everything that's going to come up. You know, I think we get that.
Get that, yeah, 100%. I mean, again, we had some fantastic times, and there's some really quite funny stories. You're going to write a fantastic book. Remember, as this is just one example of how fucking mad we were. Me pal said to me, "Do you want to go to Amsterdam?" I said, "Yes, sweet mate, lovely." He said, "All right, I'll pay for your tickets and da da da." I said, "All right, lovely." So he's come to mine. He's got this big bag, and we're already on the packet. We're going to Stansted Airport 3 o'clock in the morning, I think it was. He's opened this sack, and it's filled with these €500 notes, just right a few quid in there. So I said to him, "Mate, what's that?" And he said, "Oh no, we're taking that with us." It all fucking made sense then, like why I was getting a free ticket to Amsterdam. Plus I've already had a go, so I'm a little bit wobbly anyway. And I said to him, "Mate, obviously, I mean, this is what I do for a living. I can't fucking walk across the border with this." And so we've had a couple more drinks and a few more of them, and I've changed my mind. I said, "Fuck it, come on then." So we've turned up at Stansted Airport with sunglasses on, completely out of our nuts, upside down mouths. We put this money all around our waistline and just walked straight through, no problem. Got to the other end, delivered the money to these people. We got there and there's some machine guns and naked women, and I'm honest, they're still only kids. But he just didn't give a shit. Mad things. Police through the door every 2 seconds, and so on and so forth. But yeah, the cocaine brought me to a place. Ate me alive. And you know, the way I looked at it as well, it is karmic in some way. You know, I often considered that in my darkest moments, is that I used to have people who were in a similar position coming to me. It never occurred to me that I was feeding their misery. You know, like their pain and their things that, you know, the reasons why people take these drugs in the first place, to escape and to avoid the sensations they're feeling. I spent a long time experiencing the back end of what it means to be addicted to drugs. So what happens next? So then I go to. So I think I'm trying for treatment as well at this point. I'm going to like Cocaine Anonymous, and I'm going to see different psychologists. I'm trying to understand what's going on. So whilst I was whilst I was mad and severely depressed, I was kind of seeking help from some place, but I didn't know really where to start. I didn't really have any intention of stopping taking drugs either, so that was confusing because I was hell-bent on continuing, but also so desperate for change, you know, like and what happens next? I think I go to prison for a while. How old am I now? I'm 22. I go to prison for a while. So like I said before that, yeah, a few things. I'd split up with the missus, and my friend had passed. Fell into a really, really horrible spiral. Yeah, and things got terribly bad for me. This is all kind of coming back to me now. So we got really, really awful. And I'd obviously disassociated from my criminal friends and tried to stay away from drugs and that scene as much as possible. I was with Savannah's mum. It's my oldest daughter. So I remember meeting her. She thought I was a bit of a lad because I had a bit of a reputation, but when she met me, I was probably the lowest. Yeah, close to the lowest I'd ever been, but still looked the part, you know. So people didn't know where I was. They'd known me on face value from before and just assumed that I was well and that things, but it couldn't have been further from the truth. I was a horrendous drug addict, suicidal and just holding on to be alive, you know, by a thread. Met this girl. She was also a bit of a lunatic, which is why I'm sure we were attracted to each other. And yeah, we went on a journey together that was quite difficult. I think we were together for 2 years, but we used to, you know, fight a lot. We was partying a lot, and I loved her ever so much. But it was just one of the most painful relationships I've ever experienced. It was like to love someone, but for it to be that painful, it was difficult, really difficult. And then I went to prison.
Was that through getting involved in the sort of drug world, or?
Yeah, it was cocaine. Yeah, so we'd been raided quite a few times. There was this one guy who was interested in me in particular. His name was DCI King. He wouldn't leave me alone, and he was always there when they come through the door. He'd always be stood, sort of smiling. He was on a mission to sort of get me, and he did say on a few occasions, "I will fucking get you." It was a strange relationship with the police because we were kind of like we'd become friends after. Do you know what I mean? So
first name terms.
Yeah, it was odd. It was odd. I remember once we got raided by soccer. So there was this. We had a place up in Sawbridgeworth. My cleaner was there. Her little girl was there, and her little girl picked up the mop bucket. So they just mopped. We had a big long wooden landing, and she'd just mopped the landing, and her little girl picked the mop bucket up, and poured the water down the landing, so that you can imagine the mop bucket's over and the water's gone. Well, as she's done that, it was all in slow motion. As she's done that, the door come off, and all of these men come running in, please, 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 and they've all slid over. Every single. You couldn't have fucking made it. You couldn't have fucking made it up. Like the timing of it, for her to have done that, the door to come off, and every single one of them flat on the floor.
Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Proper. You didn't know whether to laugh or cry, you know, like, and obviously they quickly got up and put me handcuffs on and Billy this and Billy that, and we're on first name terms. I don't know any of these people, and they're telling me all sorts about myself. Fucking a week before, someone had come to that house with a shotgun and a big knife and tried to get in. As one of my friends was entering, didn't get in. We moved whatever was in the house, and there was a quantity of pretty much everything. And I remember sort of thinking to myself, just sort of scanning each room and scanning this and scanning that, thinking, is there anything here? Is there anything here? Obviously, I mentioned previously that because these people had come a week or two before, we'd got everything out. So I'm handcuffed and I'm sat in the front room and shaking a little bit, and I'm a little bit scared. And then I remembered me mate, I won't say his name, but me one of my best pals, he was kind of on this journey with me, and wherever I lived, he lived with me. And he had his own bedroom. And I remember that I'd given him something a few days before, and I couldn't recall whether he'd have it in his bedroom or whether he wouldn't. And the police had got his safe and they'd brought it out onto the table, and they was all having a look in it and shaking their head and saying, "You're in a lot of trouble" to me. And I thought, "You fucking stupid bastard, you've left your gear here or whatever." And I said, can I have a look what's in there? And he said, go on. So I had a look, and it was all 1s and 2Ps. I said, you cunts. So they was obviously getting me at it. And but anyway, there weren't nothing there, and they had a good look, and they were scratching their heads. They couldn't work out why there was nothing there. But we were just funny kids, you know, and it's probably a little bit like the youth of today. But we had stab-proof vests and SWAT team equipment in the cupboard, and knives and knuckle dusters and all this stuff. So they're bagging it all up, and obviously all of our neighbours, they all knew what we were up to, and they were probably partly responsible for us being under observation in the first place. So all the neighbours are out because they know we've been raided. Everyone's waiting for me to get carted out, and just nosy bastards. At this point, I think I'd brought some weed home with me from Amsterdam, and it was in my pants drawer. So I said to him, there's a bit of weed in my pants drawer, and he went and got it. Anyway, long story short, he said, well, I'm going to have to arrest you. I'll have to arrest you for the weed. I said, fucking hell, mate, like, have a day off. That's just, you couldn't make it up. And I said to him, I'm meant to be going out at 7 for a meal with my girlfriend. I said, any chance we can do this tomorrow? He went, right, I'll bow you till the morning then, it's no problem. So I said, all right, lovely. And then, so they've bagged all the gear up. And we all walk out. Now, we're all having a laugh and a joke. We all look like we're pals. So obviously all the neighbours, when we come walking out, I'm not handcuffed. I'm free to go. They've got bags and bags of stuff, but there's nothing in there that's nickable. It's just stuff that I shouldn't have. But you're allowed it in your gaff. You're obviously not allowed it out your gaff. And so all the neighbours are all scratching their heads, can't get their head around what's going on. I jump in my car, they jump in theirs, and I follow them home. I follow them back to Harlow. I follow them in a car with no insurance. No, I don't think I even had a driving licence at the time. So much of a fucking piss taker I was. Yeah, so the next day, because I was bowed to the morning, so we've gone out and had a meal. The next day, when they must have got back, probably checked the motor out and thought, you piss-taking little prick. And and then I got my missus to give me a lift in the morning to the police station. As we pulled to the end of our road, all the police were sat waiting. They probably thought I was going to pull out in my car, and then they'd get me for that and all, and I didn't. I was in my girlfriend's car, and I just waved. And they followed us back. I was like, blinded. I was always
convoy back.
yeah, really. They was sitting there waiting. But yeah, all of these, I was always looked after, and I was always lucky with different things. Yeah, my drug dealing days were over. And I was, you know, I was aware of that I had a serious problem that needed addressing, and so I'm with that's where I was, Savannah's mum, and I got an opportunity to, one of my old friends rang me. The guy that I was talking about earlier, who was kind of my gangster inspiration, he had a car crash on the way back from a nightclub and killed somebody, and got 7 years in prison. That was kind of my link to that world severed. The other links that I had weren't nothing like that, so the ability to obtain goods was kind of, yeah. And I got an opportunity. One of his friends contacted me, and they offered me a substantial amount of cocaine. I knew it was an awful idea. It was the worst thing I could have ever have done, but I went and got it anyway. And come back, I think we split a brick between us. I remember coming home. I said because we had nothing at the time. I had no money, but that was all I knew was that game. I didn't know anything else. And my girlfriend at the time was saying to me, please don't. I'd rather have nothing than you do what you're doing. You know, promise I won't touch it. I used to believe my promises. This was the most heartbreaking thing of it. Always, I truly believed what I was saying most of the time. I won't. Anyway, I remember sorting it out in the kitchen. And I just had a little go, just a tiny little flick, and she was behind me. And now I'll change quickly. I'll go fucking demented. I'm all twisted up. I can't talk, and the guilt of knowing what I've done anyway. That set in even quicker than it normally would. So I had a little go. Now I can't even turn around, because the minute I turn around, she's going to look at my face and go fucking mental anyway. So eventually I turn around, she looks at my face and she goes mental, and she fucking storms out. I've got fucking half a kilo of this gear on the side. This was kind of like, towards the end of the rampage. I didn't leave. I sniffed £12,000 worth of gear in 9 days, no sleep. Might have been rest. I was by the end of this, I was cutting myself. I was running around naked, covered in blood, smashing with fire extinguishers. We lived in the flats over at the train station. I was running around, smashing all the windows through. All of the things, butt naked, covered in blood, like completely psychotic, had lost my mind. I thought that the police were spying through the window. I thought that the kitchen had bugs in it. I dismantled the entire kitchen. Poor girl, she's come home from work, like, to this. I fucking loved her as well. I loved her, and I believed, you know, it was just a fucking heartbreaking time to watch myself, because this was the thing. As much as I was mad, and as much as I was this person at this time, I was always in there watching. And it was like I had my hands tied behind my back and a fucking thing, and I was made to watch me do this. It was just fucking awful. And you just don't know what to do. I just remember being in a pool of my own blood, covered in drugs, completely finished, just weeping, just screaming, crying. Ambulance has been called, police have been called. My mum's been called. Ambulance people. There's fucking cocaine everywhere. Luckily, the police didn't even pay any attention to that. I've obviously seen what state I'm in and just fucking disregarded it. But I was fucked. Got put in an ambulance, and it's making me shake. Got put in an ambulance and taken to the psychiatric unit, or to be assessed. I wasn't there for long. I was back out within a couple of days, trying to sort my problems out. Obviously, I owed the geezer 25 grand now for this, and blah blah blah. Covered in, I was slicing myself. Like, yeah, it was just a mess. Then I ended up getting kidnapped. The people that I owed the money to chucked me in the back of the motor. All sorts of people are trying to pull this money up. I was just causing heartbreak and havoc wherever I went, basically. Not only for myself, but everyone that loved me. Embarrassing, fucking awful set of circumstances to find yourself in. Yeah. All different things, you know. So I had a number of these scenarios where I would somehow get out of them. I took a kilo of cocaine off of someone, or I took a few actually off of a few different people at different times. But on this one occasion, I'd taken this gear, had a bit of a fallout with him, and basically said on the phone, like, poke your money, and threw the phone away. Didn't give a fuck. It's 2 years later, I end up with these giants outside.
Okay. Oh, no worries. Sorry, buddy. Go ahead.
No, I had these giants outside my door. One of them's rung and said, I'm outside. So I said, all right, well, where do I live? Obviously, if you don't give me the right address, then he's not outside. He tells me my address. I said, all right, fuck. There was this guy that had been hounding me for money. He was this big pumped up guy, tattoos and all the rest of it, quite a scary looking motherfucker. But my other mates were quite scary as well. I was hanging around with them at the time. I told them about these people that were after me, and they said, listen, don't worry, we've got you. So whenever these people rang me, I always used to tell them to fuck off. They were, you know, big, strong people. They'd pull me fucking head off my shoulders. But I had a full sense of security because I had some other friends that told me not to worry about it. So I was fucking stupid and wild. So anyway, the geezers pulled up outside my house. There's this one guy in particular. I've called him a fat steroid monkey cunt, and go fuck yourself, basically. This is where it gets not funny. So the guy's outside, and he said, "Come down." So I've gone down the bottom. I didn't want to look like too much of a pussy, but I was also a bit apprehensive about what might happen next. I owed him quite a lot of money, so I've gone out, I've looked, he's sat out. This guy, he's actually dead now, like I say his name was Liam. Actually turned out to be a really cool guy. He was outside, had a little look. I thought, fuck it, plucked the courage up, and off I went out, got in the back of the car. How you doing, mate? Anyway, out the bin sheds comes this fella that I've called a big steroid thing with a sawn-off shotgun. Comes walking over to the cars. You know when your heart sort of sinks a little bit, you think,
a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah. No, I mean, they didn't need guns. There was no need for that. They would have hurt me anyway. But they did have guns as well, so that made it even worse. Yeah. And he got in the front, and he got in and he pointed it at me, and he said, "Fat steroid monkey cunt, am I?" Sorry about that.
I was having a bad day. Yeah. Didn't mean it.
But this is just one of them stories again, and I've got a few of them. But I'll give a couple of as examples of how there was always something saving my bacon. So we reverse, and at this point you're sort of contemplating what's going to happen. Am I going to get tortured? Is there, is it this or is it that? And you're making all these stories up in your head about what might unfold next, and it doesn't feel particularly nice, Driving backwards, and we're at the sunbed shop in Harlow, and we start driving out, and my girlfriend's dad walks across the road. He's a mighty man, and he loves me as his own kind of at that time. Do anything for me, and he spots me in the car. You couldn't have writ it. You couldn't have writ the timing of this. So I kind of, out the back window, like, sort of, hello, help. And he comes out in the road and he stops the car. And he comes over and he knocks on the window and he says, let me fucking tell you two cunts, anybody hurts him and I'll fucking kill you. Mm. I thought, fantastic. Great news this is. Anyway, it all changes. So they acknowledge what he says. He looks at me, says sweet. I says thank you very much. We carry on. But he turns around to me, he says, you hungry? I says, yeah. He says, all right, come, let's go and take you to go get something to eat. So it's gone from you're going to have your fucking head kicked in or something worse to I'll take you for something to eat. So I knew that there'd been a change in the outcome of this situation immediately, just on the basis of what just happened. We get to McDonald's, I think we was. I explained to him I had lots of money owed to me. Blah, 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 I give him a list. And that was that. It was fucking settled there and then, no problem, no beatings, no guns, no nothing. Lovely jubbly. So that was one example of how a situation really where I should have had a good hiding transformed into quite a positive, quick ending. So yeah, so prison. So that there was the complete mayhem, like the psychosis, suicidal, like the depths of that I can't really put into words. Like the places that I was visiting during that time were so deeply fucking terrible, and I could never have imagined that I was ever going to survive. Myself, I was the problem. I was on a rate. If I wasn't going to be killed through my behaviour and the things that I was doing, the way that I was behaving, then I would have ended up killing myself in a drug overdose or having a really bad episode and ending up just doing something that had taken my life. So I was lucky. So prison was, yeah. What happened? So we had two scenarios. There was a stolen car scenario where I'd got a stolen car, pretended to everybody that it was mine. Obviously, I had a few quid at one time, so I could pull the wool over people's eyes. People believed that this car was mine. I had this car. We took all my pals out for a party. We went up to the warehouse in London. We come back. We pulled a couple of girls. It was fantastic. Again, this is the long story short. We got to roundabout. Traffic police pulled up. We're all partying, getting out off our tits. Traffic police, and I had sunglasses on. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll never forget. And you police pull up next to you, and you don't want to be seen. So I sort of sunk down in my chair. The policeman's looked up at me. I've sort of seen. They start chasing anyway. We're now getting a full-blown chase through Hackney, I think it was. We've got 4 or 5 cars trying to box us in. All my pals are screaming, please stop, please stop. I'm completely off my head, just end up pulling over. We get out, I get breathalyzed, I pass the breathalyzer. That was the first thing I couldn't work out. Then I get arrested. My friends get left on the side of the road. I get back to Edmonton police station. They strip search me. I've got loads of stuff in my pocket, but they've either not seen it or they've left it there on purpose. I believe they left it there on purpose so that they could watch me on the camera, because in the cells in Edmonton police station they had cameras in the cells. So I reckon they left the drugs in there so that they could watch me get in there, take the drugs, and see what the fuck I was going to do. And that's what happened. So I got in, took all. I think I had 6 or 7 pills in my pocket. I took them with a cup of tea. I was in there for 24 hours, and what went on in that cell, God only knows. Like it was bad. I was absolutely off my head, and the policeman kept going, "Are you all right in there?" Properly going, like clothes off, clothes on, press ups, headstands.
You need to get this dragon out of the room, mate. I can't have this dragon in here with me.
Really bad. But they're watching. I didn't even clock until like the later parts that they had a little camera in the corner. So they must have all been sat round at the thing with tea. Must have thought, fucking look at this he's properly off his head. So it was time for an interview. So they've had to get the doctor in. Is he fit for interview? The doctor said, I'm sweet, it's all right. And then I was literally, you're just gurning. I was just gurning the whole way through the interview. They've let me out. So I'm driving a stolen car. I'm pissed as a fart. I'm intoxicated on drugs. Blah blah blah. It's quite a serious charge, really. All got dropped. I went to Crown Court. That got dropped, and then I had another charge for. They pulled us over on the side. They didn't pull us over. They just rammed us in, smashed all the windows of the car, dragged us all out, made this big scene outside Burnt Mill School. Arrested us. Went and raided my house and found a bag of benzocaine, which is not really anything at all. But there was other bits and pieces, some writing on a book and this, that, and the other. Anyway, it's this DCI King fella again back, come to the cell with this bag of stuff. I fucking got ya. I said, but you ain't, because that ain't fucking drugs, mate. So, like, fucking poke it. That's not, your charge is intent to supply Class A drugs. That ain't Class A drugs. Poke it. As far as I was concerned, they was going to test it and go, fucking hell, it ain't Class A drugs, and you were off. But somehow, they found they tested it, and apparently their opinion was that it was Class A drugs. So that was that. I got arrested, charged, on bail for 2 years, done a 2-year sentence, got found guilty in trial. My argument was that I am not guilty for selling Class A drugs. That isn't a Class A drug, So anyway, I didn't swallow that in court. I got the 4 years, done the 2. But the door banging behind me, it was one of the biggest reliefs I've ever had in my life. When the door went behind me, I was safe from myself at last. I couldn't, it was an opportunity for me. Although I wasn't scared about prison. I was more scared of fucking about not being in prison, if I'm honest. Because if I hadn't gone to prison, I don't think I'd be here today. So I went, and it was difficult. It's difficult initially to get your head around it. I had a girl that I loved. She's like a fucking lot. So getting my head around the separation. Within a few months, she's living her life. Was difficult to cope with, broke me a little bit. It also gave me the fuel I needed to fucking get through, and I trained like a lunatic, and I got over it. And then I did a drug rehabilitation program. So this was where things started to change for me. I did this program. It was called Wrapped. Bumped into a guy in prison when I initially got there. I walked out into the yard and I was always bumping into people that I had feuds with. This one particular guy that I bumped into. Again, I won't name him, but he was in for a murder. It was the killing of one of our mutual friends. They'd gone on his doorstep and stabbed him to death on his door. It was someone that I knew, and these people were people that I grew up with. They've got life sentences, IPP sentences, and me and him had actually had a fight over Claudie. Remove that over a girlfriend. I was the girlfriend that I explained who had a child. When I got back with her, he was kind of around there, and we ended up having a bit of a fisticuffs on the side of the road. But it wasn't really that. I bashed him. I see him driving down the road, and we'd had that. And then when I got into prison, he was the first person I see. So we'd kind of like caught eyes, like and then it kind of just sort of dissolved, and we had a walk and we had a talk. It turned out to be quite a nice reunion, actually. You'd expect when you see people. It's funny how it works out in prison. But if you've got the beef that you'd have outside of prison and the beef that you have inside, there's different things. Where you're confined and you're closed, you don't really want them problems. You'd rather just get on and just be friends, So that's what happened quickly. So we had a walk, we had a talk. I told him about all the madness that had just been happening in my life. He's like, obviously been heavily taking the drugs and whatnot. He said, why don't you come over to the rap program? So, your cells are open from so and so, it was a better scenario to be in anyway. You get more gym, you get this, you get that. The incentive for me really was to go and reap the benefits of this of the wing. Not really. I wasn't really interested in the rehabilitation part of it at that stage. But very quickly I become interested. So we was doing different therapy sessions, and you've got all different types of people, murderers, all the full spectrum of criminal. All different ages, all different stories. And we would sit down in a circle and do therapy. No, for me it was scary. It was unfamiliar. You know, I was terrified to talk. I was terrified to express myself. I had so much inside and I felt like I had to sort of hold it all together and present myself in a certain way. So watching people break down, watching people remorse about, you know, people that had killed people, all of these different really profound stories. When you're watching men, grown men, big scary men break, that fucking did something to me. To watch that, to see that, it changed something in me, the way that I see humans. You know, like it didn't really matter. Well, and there were some horrific stories that you'd hear in there, and when you see the remorse in some cases, when you see the impact it had on the individual, the reasons why these crimes were committed in the first place. So I become interested. I become interested in myself. I become interested in the therapy. I become interested in people. I was interested in there was more to these people. You know, you see these big strong units of men, but actually watching them break, I knew that it's just we were all the same.
There's a catalyst, isn't there? No one, you know, this is my personal belief, but I don't think anyone wakes up like, you know, when you're a kid and say, right, I want to be a drug dealer, or I want to be a mass murderer, I want to be this, I want to be I think that what happens in your life moulds you down that path, doesn't it? And you find that people are not, their stories might be different, but the reason for being at that point is not so different, is it, to everyone else?
100%. Well, that's exactly what I've come to learn, is that we are a consequence of our environment, so to speak, and all we're looking to do is to build safety. You know, just to feel safe, and we have to create personas and characters and do things that give us that feeling of safety, and that's all different for all different people, how that looks. But it was really interesting, yeah, to be there at that time, and it was 18 months of therapy, so there was a lot to it. See a lot, learn a lot. Become passionate for life and become passionate and I believe change was possible at that point. Something was changing. I couldn't deny that. Something was changing inside me, and it was funny. I got stabbed when I was 17 at a pub. I might have known. Do you remember the Kingfisher pub?
Yeah.
I got stabbed in that pub when I was 17, and I was in prison. The fella that stabbed me, it was all so many strange circumstances. The fella that was in prison. The fella that stabbed me was in prison for stabbing me. Now, I never pressed charges, but it just so happened he'd gone on the run to Spain. Life had just had it that he'd got nicked, extradited back and put in prison, and we were in there at the same time. There was just a number of different things. So I had opportunities to face lots of different things. I remember I got put in on the drug wing as well. It didn't look good, so all the security team have come in and they've raided the wing. And they've put us all in this room. I've literally only been there a day. I've cleaned my cell, made the floor all nice and shiny. I left one thing in the cell, which was a Bible. It's just in the back of the little cupboard. So they raid the wing, and they called, it was Hawkins at that time. Hawkins! So I was like, what the fuck? I know I ain't got any drugs in there. So I was like, it's me. He said, right, you're in trouble? I was like, fuck me, what for? So he's opened the Bible, and in the back was all tin foil with fucking heroin burnt all over it. It was the geezer had been in there before. I'd smoked that, left it in the book. It was the only fucking thing that I left in there as well. But I'm on a drug rehabilitation wing, so I already look like I'm in trouble. I haven't really got much of it. So the only thing I can say is piss test me, because I know that I haven't taken it. So you can test my urine, and you won't find any traces of Then you've got to go for a piss between men stand. You know, it's all that palaver. It's a fucking nightmare. But yeah, then coming out of prison, and I mean a lot went on. Trained good, got well. I come out, I was strong, focused, back again. You know, but I had fuck all. I had nothing but the clothes on my back, and most of the clothes on my back had holes in. It was a bit like that, and so something to be faced with is that you'll come out, you start again. You're not going back to do what you did before. You're going to have to learn life from scratch, essentially. And pardon me, I got back with the girl that I was with before. It's the mother of my oldest. Through whatever circumstances, and I'd overcome some things to get there. But anyway, we tried again, and it was It was good. It was good initially. We moved from a flat to a house. She got pregnant. Yeah, we had our baby. There was a lot of beauty.
What was you doing for money?
So I come out initially. I got a job, which was fucking unheard of for me, and it was unpleasant. I got a job with my dad, working. It might have been the fucking Olympics. Was it the Olympics? I was doing something I really didn't want to do. It was digging holes. It was proper manual labour sort of stuff. I'd always just piss off in the van and just spend as much time driving the van as I possibly could, swerving. That's the usual. Yeah, I don't like graft. I like to. So it's always been that way. And so yeah, I come out, got a job. But I was determined at this point. I'm not going backwards, and I was willing to do anything. And I'm a smart lad. So as long as you can just show me what to do, and I'll do it, and I'll do it well. But I didn't know what to do. That was the thing. So I was thinking about maybe a stockbroker position. I was thinking, because I'm good at selling shit. So I was like, and I've got that skill. I've got that way about me. People like me. If they, you know, da 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 da. So that was what I want. So my mum was looking online for me for different job interviews and different possibilities whilst I was going to work. So she's saying, what about this and what about that? Didn't have a pot to piss in. I didn't have any. I didn't have a suit. I didn't have this. Didn't have that. So I got an interview. I got an interview as a stockbroker position. It was in Gatwick. I got all excited about it. My old man bought me a suit. My mum lent me her car and a tenner for the petrol. I remember. I drove up there. Got there and there was like 150 people queuing for this thing. I'm walking in, but it weren't a one-on-one interview. It was a stand up in front of the whole fucking room interview. It was absolutely terrifying. I got through to the third round or whatever. Blah blah blah. Didn't work out. I then bumped into a friend in a restaurant that I used to do other bits and bobs with. Explained to him my situation, and he explained that there was a guy that was getting involved with this steel tycoon, very successful man in steel. Was I interested in a job? Why not? I'll give anything a go. So I gone down to this house. It's a very, very incredible house. All the motors on the drive, Ferraris, Lamborghinis and Bentleys, and beautiful, stunning house. And you go in and it's like, wow, breathtaking. So I thought, fuck me, this will do. This is a bit of me. Sat down at the table. I remember I was fucking shaking, terrified of my own shadow. Really, there's no need to be scared. But I got the job. So the long and short of it, I got the job. Sat down. Fellas, probably no names, but the fellas promised me the position. He looked me in the eyes and he said, "I'm going to make you a very, very wealthy young man." And I was over the fucking moon. I was like, I found it. You know what I mean? It was great to go back to my mum and to me miss at the time and say, look, I've got a job and looks like it's, you know, we're going to be all right, sort of thing, because we've been scripting and scraping. It hadn't been comfortable. Anyway, I worked my bollocks off. Worked at this firm for about a year. Yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. And I learned quickly. I learned in learning my job role. I learned the business, and again, just cut a long story short, I sold a lot of metal, and that making me a very wealthy young man never happened. After a year, I questioned that. Look, I mean, it was grafting. I was selling hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of steel, and I'm still in a position where I can't buy myself a pair of trainers at the end of the month. Like, my girlfriend's pregnant. I think my rent was £1,200 a month at the time. You know, we had nothing. Like, by the time we just barely surviving. So I questioned him. He didn't really like it, and that was that. So I started to plan in my head for the next move. I didn't really know how or why, but I gathered that what I was going to do is start selling steelwork from home, give it to somebody to make it, and that would be that. So like I started preparing myself. I set up a limited business while I was still there, put it all in somebody else's name, so I wasn't traceable to these people because they'd probably give me an hard time about what I was doing. One day I rang him, my boss, and I said to the owner of the firm, and I said, look, I've got a proposition for you. This works for us both. Can I start selling steelwork from home as an independent man? I'll give you all the work. We'll have a schedule of rates. I'll earn more money than what I'm earning, but you still get all the work. He basically said, fuck off. So I went, fucking poke your job up your arse, you can't. Left. I'd already set myself up at this point. My dad had lent me money to get a laptop. I had a little £10 throwaway phone, and that was how I started. And I started with from my dining room with a laptop and a thing, and I used to just sit there all day calling, ringing. I had a website built, so it made it look like we was a successful business. Had our premises and our lorries and whatever. There was none of that. It was all just make believe, you know. It was just installing the belief to people that the people that were on the phone were a proper firm. Of course, they placed the order. The lorry turned up. No one asked no questions. It was that simple. That's what I did. So I tripled my wages in the first month. I think I went from earning fucking $2,500 or whatever it was to nearly 10 grand in 1 month. So it was like, I'm onto something here. That was it. It escalated. Like, one of my pals come from the other firm, moved in with us. We was just a sales office. We built it. Then some steel fabricator went bust. So I bought all of his kit. Got a little shed just over here, actually, over Little Samuel's farm.
Yeah.
Just there. Yeah, one thing led to another. It all went quite quickly. Then we turned over £1 million, like just like that, bang. And then it was like, right, I was getting a bit of money. Starting to see some things happening. There was always something going on. I think the boys are always swearing and making noise. There's always metal crashing and whatnot. I think the parish councillor or what it was lived just over the road from where our unit was, and he popped his head over the fence one day and asked everybody to be quiet. And one of my lots called him a fucking cunt and told him to fuck off. So we got an eviction notice the next day, of course, get out. So that was that. So we moved over to Hoddesdon into a bigger premises. And it escalated. Yeah, we started smashing it. Things were different to where they are now, but we started really doing really making some money. I started a little security firm. So I had rapid still, rapid security, a few other bits and bobs going on, making a few bob. And I was inspired by, so the girl that I was with at the time, her mum had married into a very, very rich family. I'm going to say rich, like stupidly rich. When I come out of prison, obviously I had fuck all. So it was inspiring for me to be around these people. I mean, it did make me feel like an insignificant piece of shit, I must admit, but it gave me that drive and that fire to fucking get some money and make something of myself as possible. So it was helpful in that respect. Yeah, and then we started partying again. We started partying, and slowly the drugs come back. Bit of cocaine use, ecstasy. It's all recreational fun, and I'm not involved in the world that I am before, but slowly I started to make more money. I had more time. And slowly the drugs slowly started to come back. My relationship was pretty fucking toxic. A number of different things went on that we both had to overcome. I certainly was no angel. I don't think neither was she. Turmoil. I can't really explain the grief and the turmoil within this unit. Now we've got a baby. And then the drugs started coming, and then I started just doing mad things, like I'm just going to pop down the shop and get some milk. I'd go out, get a ticket, sniff it before I went home, and then just end up in a lay-by somewhere. Just phone ringing, it'd be where are you, petrified, fucking too scared to talk, too scared to answer the phone, too scared to go home, just sat, just like, and it started happening a lot. It's like, starting to get lost again, like, fuck. At the same time, there's loads of good shit happening, I couldn't get my head around it. What the fuck's going on? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Have a few days off and it'd happen again, and fuck. And it starts getting weirder and weirder, you know, and I pretend to go to bed at night, get in bed, I'll be laying there waiting for her to fall asleep, and I'd quickly get up, go and sniff a line. She'd come down at 6 a.m, I'd be sat like a bald in the front room. What the fuck are you doing? We went to bed together last night, and how are you sat here now? Just sneaky, weird geezer, do you know what I mean? And it was just like, she had every right to be fucking get out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just up, and we've just had a baby, and like, what the fuck, like. And I'm watching myself, like, back to that again, hands behind my back, like, fucking, you will watch yourself terrorise your fucking life, you know, like, you're gonna break down and you're gonna lose everything you love again, and it was like there was multiple parts of me working, but it was like a fractured, broken part of myself was creating this situation, you know, I was reliving, I was recreating from a broken place, and this is kind of what's ensued throughout my life, is that the brokenness of my childhood, the things that happened there, I've recreated them over and over again, and I've had to understand how and why I do what I do, you know. So the breakdown of that relationship was really something for me. It took a hell of a lot for me to end that, and I ended it. I remember waking up on a Saturday morning. I loved them both so much, and I couldn't bear what I was doing to it. It was like I was responsible for this breakdown, and I couldn't even believe my own self. I couldn't believe, like, I promised and promised and promised. I couldn't even believe myself anymore. It was better for me to remove myself from the situation, try and get help and see what happened, and I left. So yeah, like I say, the business was doing all right, you know, but you start telling lies. You know, I did all the things I said I'd never do. I failed to turn up to pick my kids up from school because I'm out me nut. That's bad. It's terrible. It's terrible. And then on the strength of the guilt, I'll keep doing it, and then I'll do more. I just have pictures of my kids on the walls. I used to sit there sobbing, just like, fuck. The only thing I could do was just sniff another line. I'm like,
it's just a circle, isn't
just
it?
for days and days and days, and I'm like, I'm just trapped. I couldn't get up. I'm too scared. Could barely go for a piss. I was that petrified of my own shit. Do you know what I mean? And then I'm like looking at, I've got all this great stuff going on in my life. Like, what the fuck is going on? Terrible. And I remember I moved into this flat. I moved into Newell. Can't remember how I got there. Loads of other weird, crazy shit's happened in between, but we'll slip to this part. So I moved to this place in Newell, got this apartment. I remember I walked through the threshold of the door, and I get these cold tingles run through me. And this voice in my head that says, "You'll fucking die here." I was on a warpath with the drugs again. With me and her had broken up. I was seriously broken at this point, and then I had 3 years from this point onwards where I absolutely beat the fuck out of myself with drugs, like horrendously. Kind of back to where I was with that place I was explaining when I was a bit younger. That really the peak of that awful point. That's kind of where I went back to, and I was there for about 3 years. So a lot went on, what I found interesting is the character that I had to build to tell the world that I was okay. So I'd always have a fancy sports car, nice clubber, different watch on, blah blah blah. And I looked well. You wouldn't have known on some days. You probably would have known, but generally you wouldn't have known looking at me that I was where I was. Because at night time I was naked on the floor, searching through the bin for a fag butt because I'd run out of fags. In the day I was in a fancy motor. Everything looked sweet. You know what I mean? And there was this polarity of life. I'm tricking myself and I'm tricking the world, you know, like, because I'm fucking broke and nobody can know that because that means that I'm not safe then, you know. So it was like keeping this what I regarded to be this awful, disgusting part of me away from everybody else. So my drug use, I was always on my own. I couldn't bear the thought of anybody seeing me like this. So everything, when I did this, I was always alone. Yeah, so I'd moved into Soper Square in Newhall. Yeah, and I had that voice as I walked through the threshold of the door as I was moving in that you was going to die here. Based on how things had been with me, my mental health, my drug use, you know, I really felt that maybe there was some strength in this whisper, and that I wouldn't make it out of this place alive. So I moved in. And strange things started to happen. So, as I mentioned, the business was doing quite well. So I had a few quid, and I suppose what was more dangerous for me at that time is I had time, you know, time and money, and a fucking broken heart, I suppose. So yeah, I was sneaking off at any opportunity to take drugs, and what that looked like for me was, you know, it was all about the thought of going to get it. It was also exciting. The actual doing it was the horror. That's where the horror stories started, and he's just in this constant loop of, I'm not going to do that. You do it. It's exciting. Then it's horrific. Definitely not going to do that again. So, you know, just in this just perpetual loop of promising yourself stuff. Facing the reality of the situation, which is like, you know, it's 3 or 4 day benders, promising yourself you're not going to do it and doing it again and going and going and going. And yeah, letting my children down on various occasions. Like, you know, this is not something that I would share, but I would share to the world out of I suppose to inspire others that there is hope. So what I'm going to share in a little while about the story and how it unfolded. I remember having my little girl once, putting her to bed, getting absolutely off my fucking head in the front room, horribly, to the point, you know, couldn't walk, talk or anything, petrified, knowing that she's in bed. I remember her little footsteps coming down the corridor, 6 o'clock in the morning, and she looked at me and she stood there and she fucking wet herself, looking at me, how out of my head I was. And she was 3 or 4 years old and she stood in front of me and wet herself because of the fucking state of me. And that'll never leave me. The horror, just to watch your little baby petrified just at the sight of you, you know. Horrendous. Then I've got to ring my mum and tell her that I'm in this state and I've got my kid. You know, I'm lucky that people see me for who I really was and that people loved me and believed in me, because something like that, you could, you know, people would be well within their right to say you're never seeing your kid again. That never happened to me. No one ever did that to me. I wasn't put in that situation, but could have been. Could have happened, you know. Like and it was another one of them. Like I promised myself and told myself categorically I would never ever do something like that, and I fucking did, you know. And that was one scenario. I'm sure there's others too where I've failed to arrive to collect my kid from school, and the embarrassment and the shame of that. Not turned up to weddings and other important moments where your presence is required, you know. It's just a complete fucking shambles. So yeah, I'm living in this place, and strange things start to happen. So like I'd had some sort of spiritual phenomena occur throughout my life, but never really paid much attention to it. Odd little bits and pieces. But when I moved into this house, this flat, this apartment, just odd things started happening. There was a change definitely taking place for me. I remember one night I get up to go a wee. The toilet's just there. I get up and something dives on top of me. It just throttles me up against my headboard. And I can't move. It's like sleep paralysis. But I'd woken up and I'd sat up and something had leapt on top of me and was strangling me. And then there was this scratching on my bedroom door and footsteps running up and down my landing. I pulled the covers over my head and thought, what the fuck is that? All of these things started happening. I was hearing tapping and running up and down my landing, and I had crosses put above my bed and prayers written on my wall. This was quite serious. It was fucking really happening. I wasn't fucking making it up. There was something fucking around me doing weird shit. And when I started seeing people, got someone to come and try and get it out, whatever it was in my flat. Spiritually, something was changing. So I come to understand what this may or may not have been a little bit later on, but initially I'm fucking freaked out. It's weird. I don't really understand it. I'm in and out of Cocaine Anonymous at this time, trying to get a little bit of sobriety, and I was doing all right. I get a little few months here and a few months there. Then I'd have these horrible relapses, and it was awful, and I'd let myself down, and and I found that Cocaine Anonymous to be really helpful in some ways, and I found it to be, personally to me, quite detrimental to these disappointing moments, and the whole framework around it for me personally, yeah, and like I said, in some cases was more unhelpful than helpful.
In which way, Bill?
Well, I'm just saying that I can't tell you how many times I failed. So I'd get 6 months and then I'd go back up and then it'd be starting again. In the end, I'd failed so many times, you was just embarrassed to even declare it. You know, it'd be like, it was pointless. I'd done that so many times, I can't even be bothered to get up and announce that I'd fucked it again. It was just sort of keep quiet. It was a beautiful starting place for me, for my journey. But the depths of what had to happen for me was the journey that ensued afterwards. But it was where I started. I remember being so scared to talk. I used to sit in them circles and it'd come to me and it'd be, my name's Billy and I'm an addict. Even just saying that, I didn't like that. I didn't like the idea that I certainly, you know, I'm confirming that that's what I am. I believe, and I still believe now that that's not what I am. I'm not an addict. But I was, but I'm not truly, that's not truly who I am. But it used to come to me, my name's Billy and I'm an addict. And I used to freeze. I was so scared. Everybody's eyes would look at me. And I couldn't talk. And I'd go to talk and I'd stutter, and then I'd stutter more because I've stuttered, and then anxiety would come, and then now everyone's looking at me with concern. Mm-hmm. You know, it was like it was fucking awful, and I'd splat out a few words, not make much sense. Go bright red, highly embarrassed, pissing sweat. It was fucking awful, the experience. You know, eventually I got to a place where I could communicate a little bit, and then I was talking, and then once I started talking, you couldn't fucking shut me up. So it was like, yeah. So in terms of bringing myself to a space, relating, talking, understanding, it was a good place for me to start. Backwards and forwards with my drug use. So my drug use involved being locked in a bedroom, watching pornography, and all strange things that a young man would get up to in that sort of scenario for days on end. Now I would often question, what are you doing with your life? Like, I'm a young man, I'm not a bad looking lad, got a lot going for me, and I spend my days doing this. The fuck? Doesn't make no sense to me, it's fucking awful. There was something, I find the drug to be somehow sexual in its nature. You know, so previously parties, after parties, socialising, that kind of stuff with other people, sort of normal. You know, locked in a bedroom on your own for days, it's not really normal, is it? You know, and it's like my behaviour used to leave me questioning myself a lot, and I didn't get it. I didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing. It was weird. It was not, you know, there was so many moving parts to it. I think, like I said before, I was so embarrassed of how I got when I took drugs that I categorically had to be on my own. It was even moments where I was questioning my sexuality, you know, during that time. I was watching what I was watching on telly, and it'd always get stranger and stranger and weirder and weirder. To the point where you didn't really know who you was and what you was. So yeah, how far do you go with that?
I think, to be fair, I think we've all experienced that, mate, haven't we? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have, Brett.
But the thing,
no denial here, mate. We're all friends.
Well, the thing is, yeah. There's levels to it. So it's like I understood that it was quite a normal thing. It's quite a normal thing for blokes to be off their heads, you know, watching a bit of whatever on the telly and whatever. I do believe I took it one step further, and there were other things going on, you know, and so there was other energies at play, and things within myself that had been undiscovered that were playing out through these scenarios. And so I remember one day, because like I said, something was starting to happen. So I would have a few days here and there where I'd have meditation music on. I'd be able to sit still. Maybe I'd do some breath work. And I'd go to bed at night listening to angel music or something like that. But then on the other nights when I was off my head, I mean, you could hear a pin drop in our flats as well. You could hear someone cough next door. So if someone was having a good time in their bedroom, you'd hear about that. Or having a bad time in their bedroom, you'd hear about that. So my mate downstairs, I had angel music playing on one of the nights, and downstairs had come and knocked on my door, and he said to me, I think it was his polite way of saying, we can hear everything you're doing up there, by the way. But he referenced to the angel music. He said, you was playing some meditation music last night. He said, like, is everything all right? And blah, blah, blah. Well, everything weren't all right. And the fact that somebody even asked me that, it really touched me. He'd been under me for a year, this fella. We'd never even said hello. But is everything all right? Fucking burst into tears. No, it ain't all right, mate. Come in, have a cup of tea. Come in. I've told him this, and this. We've got quite deep in our conversation. And it really fucking moved me that someone cared, that he'd made the effort to come up. And then, obviously, I was having parties for one in my bedroom that I had not even considered that someone might have fucking heard that. How embarrassing. So now, because we'd had that conversation, I'm now conscious of the fact that there is someone beneath me, and what you're doing is being heard. Fucking sort yourself out, you weirdo, yeah? And so it spoilt my drug taking, because every time I got out me nut, all I could think about was that fucker underneath me, listening. Oh, weird things would go on. Front room, kiss you. I didn't know where to go now. I was out me nut, and I was moving around the gaff, and it was a good thing, though. He'd done something to me. Somebody cared. Somebody was beneath me. His mum had gone to this spiritual circle, and there was another one coming up. It was like this shamanic drumming thing. Dan didn't have a fucking clue what he was going on about. It was on the 13th. Now, at this time, all numbers were popping up for me. I used to see 1111 and 222 and all of this, and it was everywhere, all of these numbers. They were significant, and I was noticing them. Something was changing. The offer to go to this shamanic drumming circle was there. It was on the 13th. I'm born on the 13th. 13's my lucky number, and I see 13 everywhere. But just him saying this thing's on the 13th, it just made me think, I'm going to go to that. I went. As I walked through the door at this place, I've gone with my mate Perry. As we walked through the door, there's this fella there, longish hair. And he says to me, there's a blonde girl standing behind you, and she's with one of your old friends, and he said, you're heartbroken, and he says this, and he says that, and then boom, 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 and he tells me all about myself. Never met this geezer. He cannot know these things about me. It would be impossible for him to know anything about me. He just went boom, 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 boom. I fucking just wowed, started wailing, crying. It fucking shocked me. And I thought, hang on a minute, there's something here. This ain't a load of mumbo jumbo. There's something about this fella. He's real. He knew things about me no one could know. I was intrigued at this point, like, let's fucking go and see what this is all about. He starts telling me all things about myself, and I don't really know what I'm listening to. I know the things that I know, but he's telling me spiritually about this and about that, and okay, right, it sounds a bit weird to me, but you've already convinced me by saying what you said that you know something that I don't, so I'm going to trust in the other things that you are saying that maybe I don't know what you know. So I've gone in, and it's all a bit, and there's a group of weird and wonderful people that I wouldn't normally associate with by choice. But I'm down for it anyway. We go in, we sit down, it's banging drums, and it's this and it's that, and it's a bit of a ritual, and he keeps coming back to me, Billy this and Billy that. But he kind of makes me feel important, which I needed at that point. They get me up in the middle of the room. It's like 50 people in a circle. They get me up in the room. He's asking me to look at this bit of glass, and they're all dressed up in weird furs, and they've got these spears, and they're all dancing and banging drums, and I'm just a bit like, fucking, what is this? And he's going, don't worry, like, if you feel anything or if you don't feel anything, just go with it, just go with it. I'm like, all right, go with it. 2 hours or something they spend on me, with me, doing whatever they're doing. And everybody in the room so fucking focused on me. It felt good. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, but it felt good. And so then I go sit down, and then he says to me, in the second half, there's a lady with blonde hair, and they're doing like this healing thing where you've got to get up and he'll, give your energy to a person. I don't know what the fuck is this. So he says to me, Billy, you'll be doing this with Joanne. I was like, fuck me, no, please don't embarrass me like that. I don't want to. He said, mate, just get up and do it, like, go with it. I said, all right, sweet. Anyway, I get up and I put my hands on this woman, and they're all banging the drums, and she turns around to me afterwards and she's like, I've never experienced anything like that. And I thought, wow, like, she was saying that the energy that you was giving me was this and that, and this was all fucking weird shit for me. But I was like, wow, okay, like, yeah, maybe there is a little something in me, I don't know. The week after, I didn't feel anything so much on the day, but the week after, I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed day and night Like, I couldn't get off the sofa. I cried and cried and cried and cried. So I knew something happened. I didn't know what the fuck happened, but something had happened. I was a huge release was taking place, and I was contemplating all of the things that had gone on in my life, and I suppose yeah, there was an energetic shift in my body taking place, and with that, things were leaving, and a new sense of being. I felt different. I couldn't really describe what it was, and all of a sudden, like, my urge for drugs wasn't there like it was, and there was a silence in my mind. My mind used to abuse and beat me, and that wasn't doing that no more. And just from this one encounter, and I was intrigued. What the fuck was that? What was they doing? How does it work? Like, how did it impact me that way? And so on and so forth. It's only because I had seen what had happened to me that I was actually interested. If I'd have gone there and then there wasn't, you know, this big shift in me, and then I would have disregarded it as nonsense and just carried on with what I was doing. But there was something in it.
It's making sense. It's
making sense, yeah. Obviously, I was explaining the stuff that was going on at home, the noises, the things scratching on my doors, and this, that, and the other. And I started attending these circles on a regular basis and become like part of the furniture there. I was like, you know, always at the groups, really love being there. I always come out feeling elevated and good. And things were starting to change. And don't get me wrong, there was the odd blip here and there, but life was getting better. I was getting better. And then I just couldn't. There was always this underlying sense of I don't really want to live. And it still comes every now and then now. You know, I can quite quickly slide back into what's the point. But just this feeling that I don't really I'm always fighting to be okay. I'm never really truly, I'm always pretending. If I'm really truthful, I'm always pretending to be okay. The depths of me is not, you know, and I don't want to live like that. But I don't know how to get better. I don't know how to get better, and I don't know. And I'd been everywhere, and I tried everything, and I was in rehabilitation for 3 years on the spin, always at fucking Christmas. Christmas had come, and I'd be in drug rehab, and I'd miss it all, and miss my kids. I'd miss everything, and I'd come out, and I did that for 3 years. And on the third one, I think it all coincided at around the same time. I did my last drug rehabilitation at Christmas. It wasn't even for the right reasons that they worked. It was. I remember going to Clapham Common. It was Christmas. I'd been on a few day bender with some bird. I won't go into the details of it, but I woke up in one morning and I looked in the mirror and I thought, you are a disgusting human being. And I booked the rehab and I went and I got there and this place was just awful with fucked people. People are just fucked. And I was a good-looking young man, loads of good stuff. What the fuck are you doing here? Like, it was that I couldn't get made around anyway. So I've done the rehab where it cost me thousands as well each time. I got out, took my little girl shopping. We went to an hotel, spent the weekend, Winter Wonderland, all the nice stuff. And I didn't take drugs again from that point. And I didn't even know that I didn't take drugs. It just switched off. But it all coincided with what was happening elsewhere. So yeah, I didn't take drugs, but yet there was this underlying sense of, if I'm truly honest, I'm not okay in the depths of me. Like I can put a face on for the world, but so then I got an opportunity to and I was throwing parties at this time. I think I even converted one of my steel warehouses into a party. We had a rave, and so I was right into my music. But music generally coincided with drinking and drug taking, and that was something that I had to consider. So I had to let go of a lot of things, let go of the music, let go of this, let go of that. So somebody that I used to throw parties, and one of the girls that I used to book the DJs for, she was not a promoter, but she was a booking agent for DJs. So I used to book through her. I think I'd done that on a couple of occasions. Anyway, I was speaking to her about some of the experiences that I'd had recently, and some guy had offered me DMT. This is dimethyltryptamine. So this is something that you smoke. There's a natural form and there's the synthetic form. At this point, I don't fuck all about it, but he's telling me this is a good thing. This is good for your health, good for your mental health. It's going to help you see the world and yourself in a different way, blah, blah, blah. It's a substance nonetheless. So I was concerned that if I took it, liked it, I could end up in the same fucking scenario as I was previously, and I was scared of that. I didn't want to end up in another addiction with another substance that I didn't truly understand. Some time had passed anyway, and I still, this feeling inside me wasn't subsiding. In fact, I was clean, but finished. It was all right. Everything was all right, but I'm not all right. It was a weird one. And I remember the things that this guy had been saying to me about this DMT, and I got to a point I thought, you know what, fuck it, just try. You've got nothing to lose. So we come round, we smoked this. I remember leaving my body, coming back down into my body and opening my eyes, and the room was like, and it was scary, quite scary. And I remember saying to him, "Fuck, how long does this last for?" And he was like, "Just a few minutes." And I was like, "All right, cool, I can live with that." So I'm sat and I'm processing many different things, and I've sort of slowly come back round into the room again, and I just had this fucking sense of clarity, like I'd never seen the world like this before myself, and I was clear. I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel intoxicated. I felt clear, and that felt good. I was like, okay, maybe there's something in this then, but it's to be explored in the right way. So I was explaining this to the girl that I booked the DJs through, that I had this experience with DMT, and she told me that she was hosting, or she was co-hosting, a retreat in Europe with these group of Mexicans, an organisation called Inner Mastery. They facilitate these retreats with the use of ancestral medicines. So they were sharing Cambo, Bufo, and ayahuasca. I don't know what any of that means or what any of that is at this point. She tells me a little bit, but it doesn't really mean much to me anyway. I had the money, I had the time, and I just get on a plane and I just go. I haven't got a fucking clue what I've signed up for. It's 11 days. Yeah, I'm never the same, but I'm not the same person when I return from this. It's free. We did 3 Cambos. Cambos comes from the monkey frog, like the big green frog that you'll see in the Amazon rainforest. So that it secretes a resin on its back. And basically, you break the skin and you apply the resin, and it creates or brings about quite a profound experience in the body where you're letting go of purging. There's a replacement of like peptides, and there's maybe a separate subject to talk specifically about these things, but anyway, I don't know anything. I'm just like trusting that this is going to be good for me, and it's horrendous actually, foaming at the mouth, and you're sick out of both ends, and yeah, it's not nice. It's not nice. and again, but you tell me that this is going to be good for me. I'm at the point where I'll do anything to get better again. I just want to be well. So then in the afternoon, then we smoke Bufo, which is it's a resin that comes from it's a 5-MeO that comes from a toad that lives in the Sonora Desert. The toad spends the majority of the time underground, but it comes up, it's seasonal. When the toad comes up, it excretes a liquid from its glands. You squeeze the glands, and you get the liquid on like a pane of glass. So they'll milk the toads, and then they heat it up, and it's the purest form of DMT that you'll find on the planet, and you smoke it. Again, I don't know all of this. It's just I'm being told that this is the process. So I smoke, and I leave the body, and I remember what I truly am. My entire existence collapses at that point. Billy, the concept of Billy dissolves, and you remember life. You remember the truth, and then you slowly start to come back into human form again, and you process everything in your body, and but this is like flick through. It's like, you can imagine when you die that you flick through all of the moments of your life, and and it's true. As you're leaving your body, you reach out for your children, you reach out for the people you love. It's natural. You're kind of leaving, and you're grabbing out for them. But as you come back into your body, you realise that you've got the blessing. Like, I've experienced what that looks like, death, but now I can go back to my family again, and that's a very exciting thing, to have that experience and to be able to go back. And it's like dying without dying.
Yeah,
you've died. You've had the opportunity to die and then go back and have that experience with all of your friends, family, to relive your life again. But having had the experience of it all being taken away, So, but we did that every day for 11 days. So you can imagine. I mean, they was all profound initially, but by the time this is with the intention of breaking me down, breaking everything down. So by the time we got halfway through, there's some really truly incredible things were happening for me, and I was working through a lot of material. So it's what I understand. What basically happens for us is that when we are in situations throughout our life where we are unable to process that material in a healthy way, it's stored. Yeah. So whatever it is, it's a heartbreak or it's grief of whatever. If we're not processing it at the time, it has to go somewhere. The energy has to sit, and so it sits somewhere in your body. What I found out is that different places in your body hold different energies. Different organs will contain, your lungs are containing grief, your liver's containing your anger. So, because it's all frequency, an experience or something that happens is a particular frequency, and that frequency resides in a particular place in the body. So as you're cleaning your body through this process, things are moving, you start to recall the memory, and the emotion comes out. So it's like, and it's only through having that experience do you see how this works. Mm-hmm. So as I'm cleaning this out, I'm reliving it, it's coming out, and then all of a sudden I perceive the world differently. So it's like we perceive the world through the lens of all of our unprocessed material. Yeah. Yeah. So and as we clean that, the way that we see the world, the way that we see our relationships, the way that we see everything changes. And so that was the process for me. It was going through this fucking crashing it all out. And it's very, very unsettling and quite disturbing and fucking scary. And then you come out the other end of that. And my mind's absolutely blown. Like, when I say blown, I'm unrecognisable. The way that I talk, my vocabulary, my use of language, I wasn't, in 11 days, I was transformed. Come back, people didn't recognise me. I looked different. I felt different. Old friends, that wasn't of interest to me anymore. It's like what we was just talking about a moment ago, like for old friend circles, that's Billy gone a bit strange. I don't want to do that anymore. That's not good for me. So Billy's a bit strange. I've realised some things. And my first realisations, again, is touching on what we was just speaking about, some of the first realisations that I had there were the importance of other people's opinions of me. I was so concerned. So it was so important to me of how people see me. So lost in that. My entire reality was built around how does the world view me, and lost the essence of me in that, and terrified that if I present the real me to the world, that it will be discarded or shunned or not loved, So it was like what had happened to me in that experience there is that I had been revealed. The true me had been revealed, and then I brought the true me back and witnessed how that interacted with the world, and it didn't get the response I wanted. You know what I mean? So then you backtrack to this pretend version of yourself because that's what everyone expects to see. But this was a massive learning for me. Like, now there were these huge paradigms in the way that I could see the world. I could see it not only from where Billy was, but I now had this other view on things. And so it was an amazing, confusing time where I went back and forth. And so I did that for about 2 years. I was back and forth to this place, working, and I relapsed a couple of times in between. Shit was still going down. Good stuff was happening too. It wasn't all terrible. Back and forth, but really grew as a human being. And I suppose in all of the places where I had failed to grow up in my childhood and in my young teens, it kind of it was like a fast track, but it was like an initiation into manhood. This process, it would come real quick, and then I become interested in the Amazon rainforest. That was, of course, the origin of this work. Yeah. So it made sense for me that if I was going to do this and I was going to study this work and study myself in the process, that I went to the places. So I started traveling. We went to Colombia, Peru a couple of times, Colombia a couple of times, Brazil a couple of times, and then some other places, Costa Rica, and spent times with different families, different tribes, different traditions, different. It was essentially all the same stuff, but different methods of use, and in different locations, there's different plants, there's different plant preparations, fasting, you know, it. I remember I took my mate John Boy to one of the trips. We got to Peru, and it's, you know, it cost us a few quid to get there. I've sold him the dream about we're going to go to this place, have a really great time, and anyway, we get there, and it's just a wooden shed. It's just a wooden shed in the middle of the rainforest, and we've travelled for hours and hours and hours to get there, walking through brambles and blah blah blah. Trekked. He's had a horrendous car accident a couple of years before. He's got one, like, he's basically whole hip replacement, and last thing he needs is to be trekking through the Amazon rainforest. Anyway, I've dragged him along. We get there, and we find our shed, and it's just a shed. It's just a wooden shed. Wooden floor with a little mat on it. That's the bed with a little net over the top. So he's like, "Are you fucking having a laugh? Like, you've dragged me right halfway around the world for this?" I said, "Just stick with it, mate. Like, it'll make sense." It was hard, mate. You fucking get there. There's nothing. There's nothing to grab onto. No fags. I got no phone. There's nowhere to go. It's just you in this place. No food, and for 4 days it was no food, no water. No water. No, we had water. I'm lying. We had one jug of water out the front between us. So you can imagine we're fading away. But the process is that when you're not eating, you know, your unprocessed material starts to reveal itself. You start to get quite emotional. Because normally, if you feel something, you'll have a coffee, a bit of sugar, you'll have a fag, you do this, you do. You always got something to distract yourself, make yourself feel better, haven't you? When you take all that away, and you're in this place, all of a sudden it's all coming up. But we had each other, and we had, I think, a pack of cards. There's only so much of that you can do. Anyway, they come, so the purification process starts. I think we've had 3-4 days with nothing, and then they give us this plant. Well, I'm dying for anything. Just give me something. They give me this bowl with this mashed up leaf in it and whatever. But anyway, when it passes through, like, whatever's in's coming out now. So it's like 24 hours now of fucking both ends.
It sounds terrible, mate. But your mate's thinking I've paid for this.
I just had joy just watching me mate just get unravelled. Do you know what I mean? And so we're back and forth to the toilet. He's just like what the fuck is this? I'm finding it quite enjoyable just watching him. And then the ceremony starts. So we cook the medicine and we do the medicine. And so I think we had three of the shamans. And they'll sing their songs and they'll serve the medicine, and you'll go into a state, and things start happening in your body, and changes in temperature, and visions start coming, and they start whining, and you feel it working through your body, and all of a sudden you start to feel very nauseous. Sick out in the bucket, and all of a sudden you'll start seeing things, and this stuff comes out, and as you sit up, something's come out. So you know something's come out, and you feel more you than you've ever felt. Well, that's what we've been doing. So a lot of that, different places, different locations. None of it's been easy. I've had 10 years. I've put myself through it, like, with all different things, you know, like with the fasting, 7-day water fast. We've had, I think, 4 or 5 days with no food, no water. Loads of different protocols: ice baths, breath work, all of the medicine work, and it's been really, really difficult. And then trying to integrate that understanding, because there's so much that comes. I can't do any of it justice with words. There are things that have to be experienced for a person, for you to be able to comprehend. And it's an injustice to my own experience to try and put it into words, because I can't really, you know. But what I can confirm is that it's had a huge and beneficial impact on my life. It's helped me see things that I would never have been able to see about myself and the world without this assistance. And led me. It changed the path. It meant that my suffering had meaning. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And that everything that I'd been through, and all of the pain that I'd inflicted upon myself, there was a reason. There was a reason why, and it was to discover oneself. And it was like the further down I go, the higher up, and this is natural for all of us. This is the peak and trough of life. You know, the further down we go, naturally the higher we go. So I've always lived like that. It's the horrible lows and quite high highs. And so as I'm getting older, I'm trying to master more of a flow like this, as opposed to it being like this ups and downs. And worked with some incredible teachers. Like the last place that I was at is in Ecuador. And when we first get there, I was in bad shape. I mean, I can come back to what I was going to say. So we're in Ecuador. We get there. The first cleanse that we do is a chili cleanse. Chili up your bum.
Okay.
Chili in your eyes, and ginger and alcohol all over your body. Now, when I say chili up your bum, I mean it's no need to explain how that's going to feel.
No, I think we've got that one.
Chili in your eyes, again. Yeah, and then this ginger and this alcohol. When I say it's hot, it's like this experience is similar to having petrol poured over your body and being set on fire for a few minutes. So you're standing on a rock, Starkers. This goes in. You got to stand there and you got to compose yourself. And the skill in this is to not move. It's to stand very still, be with your breath, and experience this fire without fucking. Because you could quite easily just go, ah! It's about not doing that. It's about doing the opposite. It's about falling into it. So we get there, and this is what we do. And we go through this process, and then it's ayahuasca, and then it's this chili again, and then it's ayahuasca, and then it's chili again. And yeah, but I mean, chili in the eyes is something that I do on a regular basis now. People that are close to me, well, they'll know why I do it. But people might think it's crazy, but it's all about setting yourself up for life. You know, life's all about it's not all about uncomfortable sensation. It's all sensation. It's a positive or a pleasant sensation, or an uncomfortable sensation, but it's coming at us all the time from all different angles. So if I can set myself up to be composed in because when something uncomfortable comes, someone pokes you or fucking pinches you, or whatever, your initial reaction is to react, isn't it? But so in any scenario, to be able to have that composure when something uncomfortable comes, you can just sit quietly and still, and you don't need to move or react. It's that training for that. It's really set me up well. It's quite a bizarre thing to do to get there, but all strange things, that we're learning.
So I mean, so obviously we've had the beginning and we've had the kind of middle where things were going wrong. So is this today's life for you? Is this how you are today? You live with do you keep going back to the Amazon and for treatments? Well, I say treatments. I don't know if that's the right word,
I can come to that. So it's been such an interesting journey. So like with the business and stuff, lots happened. So like kind of backtracking just a touch, like lots happened with the business. It went from strength to strength. We got hit for a load of money. We went bust a couple of times. Loads of stuff went down. The long and short of my business life is that it made me fucking miserable. Yeah. A lot of stress. And it was all dangling the carrot, you know. And what happened for me in the beginning of my journey is I realised that I was all about the material objects, the inanimate objects. So that's what I worked for. That's what I lived for. That's what when I grew up as a boy. That's what I was taught. You did. You get the money. You get the watch. You get the car. You get this. I spent my whole life striving towards that. So that thing for me. When I realised a certain number of things about myself and the reasons why I do what I do. Going to work and making myself unwell for the stress of money to get stuff that didn't fulfill me, that all of a sudden my whole reality collapsed. It was like, I do this and this to get this and this, and I don't want any of it. What the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
So I was able at one point to make a very, very quick decision. Like I remember I had an experience, I see what I see, and it was very, very clear to me, just change your path. Fuck the business. I don't want none. I remember coming round for me. I literally rang my brother and I said, bruv, you can have the firm. I'm not interested. I'm done. I didn't even have much money at the time, but I was that sure about what I had just discovered, that you can take it. I had it valued. It was worth 3 million quid. So I was like, and I was skint. So I was like, backtracked a little bit and I said, listen, bruv, there's a bit of money there. Took a chunk off my business partner at the time, chunk of cash. Don't tell the police or the tax man. And and the
we spent it on chilies, mate. Don't worry. We spent it on chilies and frogs. It's gone.
But anyway, I got a few quid. So what had happened? I had we was in Colombia, And this was at the time before we was in Colombia. We had these visions, and this shamanic doctor said to me, he said, "You're gonna do very good things in your life." And I said, "Oh, okay." We're taking this, and I laid down. And I had all these visions about this house that we were gonna live in, and the things that we were gonna do there. And I was with my new girlfriend at the time, Jenna, and I was sharing with her about the vision that I just had. It was like a magic wand had been waved when we come back from that trip. I was living in Brentwood. Life just changed. I don't know what happened. I'd learned a lot over the 5 or 6 years where I'd been doing what I was doing. So we started sharing some of those things with people. Over the course of a year, people come like wildfire. We'd built a community of people. We moved into this beautiful house just over the road from here, actually, Windmill Cottage. And something really beautiful happened. We made a lot of really cool and beautiful friends. We had these wonderful gatherings, and we did all of these different rituals and cleansing protocols with people, and people were getting well. Like very, very sick people were getting well very, very quickly. And it grew very, very quickly, like wildfire. And so I'd gone from being quite a closed-minded, supposed person that had been involved in drugs and then in still work to have had these big mind-opening experiences, discovered that there was so much more to me and to life, and then started sharing that with people. The business made no sense to me anymore, and I believed that this was going to be my path now. Is that my path is to be in service to people in whatever capacity. I don't know what, but that's what was happening, and that's what happened. We then moved from Windmill House, and I'll tell you what happened. COVID come, so I was in Colombia on another trip. I was up in the mountains, and I'd had a vision about the world, something about the world, and then the next day the world was closed. All the army was out with machine guns. You couldn't move. We weren't going on. We were going to be stuck in Colombia apparently. So we was all a bit like, I was actually rubbing my hands together. I thought fucking lovely, but everyone else was panicking. And yeah, we get home from that trip, and nothing's the same. I had a few bob at that time, so I thought, lovely. I went and got a big house in Cambridge. We had everything there, sauna, steam. We had a big house, and we had space to do all of this stuff. So I thought, well, cool. All my pals moved in. I had me missus, my kids, my pals, all living under one. It was a dream for me to have all my pals living in it, for all one big family under one big roof kind of thing. It weren't really. It was a bit of a fucking nightmare, to be honest. But that's what we did. So the world was closed, and I spent about 1.5 years doing what we did. It was great, and it all just slowly fell apart. I broke up with the girl. Friendships and relationships started deteriorating, and I started to change my mind about what I was doing. And by that time, I'd ironed out on my money. I'd invested in a few things that weren't no good. I've got one of them still left now, but basically, long and short of it is I'd done all my money. And it was one of them ones as well, like the money runs out, the energy runs out, and everyone fucking disappears all of a sudden. And
find out who your friends are.
Yeah, same old scenario. It's just a different story, but it's what we was talking about earlier. Like when you've got something that everybody wants, or you're generous with your money, or you're this or you're that. No, I mean, it was even as simple back in the day as me having a nice car. If I was driving a fancy sports car, everyone would ring me in the morning at the weekend because they wanted to come out in the motor. I didn't have it's just weird shit, and people are funny. But it's all for us to learn about people and how to be. So that was that. Anyway, so I'd sold the business, and then I started taking drugs again. So this was 2.5 years ago. So at this point, I'd been 5 years clean. Categorically would never have taken drugs again, as far as I was concerned. A number of things slowly sort of broke me down a little bit, but I ended up being sneaky again. I remember getting on it, and I had a year. I moved out the big house, moved into a small house on my own, and I had a year where I was fighting in addiction again. Then I went to Ecuador. That's where I told you, where we did the chilies and we did this and we did that. And it was in Ecuador that I see, because I was kind of stuck. I didn't want to do the spiritual stuff anymore. It just the way that things are unfolding in the world, and you had a lot of. It's not to discredit the spiritual community in any way, shape or form. But just what I observed, I just didn't want to be a part of it the way that it was. It was all a little bit, a lot of sick people, unresolved people trying to help people, and it don't really work like that. You got to be well, and you got, but it's none of my fucking business anyway. But there was a few things around me personally that changed my mind about things, and I thought, right, this is it for me. So I didn't really want to do that, but I didn't want to go back to work in an office. Knowing what I knew about myself and the world now, going to work didn't make any fucking sense. I was kind of stuck in this limbo place, like, the fuck am I going to do? Like, I need money. This was the other part of the spiritual awakening, is like you can go so far up into this overall worldview of things, but the reality of our situation here is that we need money. We need to, we still need to function within society. It's all good, just disregarding it. None of it's real and blah blah blah. It can be quite unhelpful. Some of the ideas that this work raises, and some of the perceptions that you can get can actually work against your day-to-day life. All of a sudden, a relationship that you've been in for a long time, that changes dramatically because you've had a profound experience. There's a lot that comes that you have to face. So I was back in a position where, like, fuck, what am I going to do? How am I going to earn money? It's like I just mentioned a little while ago. I was kind of in a position that the guy that I went and trained with, he was training to be a pilot. I was training to be a pilot. There was a few things. He wasn't just a little forest man. He had a few things that were pretty interesting. So he was a good businessman. He was training to be a pilot. He had a couple of farms. He was very knowledgeable about many different things. So not only was he helping me with the cleaning work, like the cleaning the body work, but there was a lot of other things about him that kind of opened my eyes. And I thought to myself, I've really shut myself down and to such a narrow path. Like, I can be all of these things. I can be all of what Billy wants to be. I've got so many dreams. I've got so many things I want to create. Like, why narrow myself down to this is like a very small part of me and this is what I'm going to do? And just watching him and his life kind of inspired me to go, you know what, right, so I've got no money, so I need to start with what I know, make some money, use that money to create the things that are my dreams. That's kind of where I'm at. Within 3 months of coming home from Ecuador, I bumped into an old friend. He pulled up the money. He put quite a few quid in. We're a year in now, so we're back. We've got a business over in Lakeside. It's doing very, very well. It's grown like immensely over a very short space of time.
What's the name of the business?
Sapphire Steel.
Sapphire Steel.
Sapphire Steel. But the truth is, I am at a place where I'm questioning the whole thing. The chase of money again, the stress levels that are involved. It's a very early part of the business. It requires my full attention. It requires my hard work for the next few years, and that's the commitment I've made. But I'm questioning it. I'm under a lot of stress. I'm not earning much money. It's a difficult time, and it has been a difficult couple of years. So I maintain myself using and doing the things that I've explained. I go on retreats every so often, and I'm I was studying and training others in breath work for a few years, so that's something that I use as a modality to keep myself in check. There's a few things that I do, like it's even simple things, like my dog just died a month ago, and he was like my best friend. He was only 2, healthy, fit dog. All of a sudden just went. I believe that there's some sort of divine timing or order in that anyway, but just the simple things. Because of him, I used to get up every morning, and we used to have a beautiful little routine. We'd get up, we'd go for a walk. Just a simple thing that I did every day because I had a dog. Like, now he's not here, I don't do that, and all of a sudden I've noticed that taking that walk out of my day, I've got a wobbly head. Put that walk back in again. So it's just a little thing. So,
but is the obviously it's a personal question, but the usage just stopped. Don't use drugs anymore or anything? No. Fantastic.
No drug taking. No drug taking. I've had a beer lately. I had a beer for the first time. I've never really been a drinker. So I had a beer with my dinner. That's the first time I've enjoyed a beer. My taste buds, I must have grown up now. me taste buds. Yeah, I had a sip of a beer the other day, and I thought, wow, I never got it. When people drink a beer, they go, oh, never got that. But the other day I did. I went, I get it now. Yeah.
Start getting a hairy chest soon.
It's just started. But but yeah, that's the long and short of it. It's been one hell of a ride, and I found an inspiration for life. I found a truth within myself, that we are all one. You know, this was what I learned, is that we're all one. We're one organism. We're essentially the same person looking back at each other. You know, we're all connected. It's very, very important that we look after each other, that we love each other. Yeah, it's a fucking horrible, cruel world that we seem to live in, and the truth of what life is, or the truth of life and the life that we are subjected to, is two very different things. So, yeah, I've just learned to love myself and to have compassion, I suppose, and understanding and forgiveness for myself and the world around me through.
I think it's positive that you found that place in the world, you know. And I think for me, whenever I hear about anyone that's gone through kind of like trauma or experiences and stuff like, I love to hear that they found a place in the world and they're kind of, how can I say, things have made sense and they've kind of, you know, progressed from that. Because I think every day is a learning day. Every day, I say every day is a school day. We learn about ourselves every single day. But I do, you know, I think it's inspiring when you listen and you hear that someone says, you know, I get who I am.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still very much work in progress. It's still very much work in progress. But yeah, I have a foundation that's steady, and I'm starting my life all from the very beginning. I'm 36 years old, and this is literally the beginning of my life. So
nice, Bill. Well, look, good luck to everything in the future, and I'm sure we'll be in touch anyway.
Yeah,
definitely. I'd like to get a little follow up on this. I definitely would like to see what's, you know,
see what unfolds.
See what unfolds, my friend. Definitely.
I'd love to drop more in on about the frogs and the some of the.
You just want to chilly up your bum, mate.
I know you do.
I'm happy to prescribe that for you.
Get it done, I'll watch. Maybe we'll do it on air.
Use a red bell pepper.
Superb, Bill. Thanks for your time.
No,
Top man, Bill.
Fantastic,
thank you
buddy.
so much.
Billy Hull.
Yeah,
Top man.
top.
Good man.